Guys, Bitcoin Layer 2s might be all the rage right now, but did you know they could actually be much less secure than the original Bitcoin blockchain? We're going to talk about why and why many of these Layer 2s aren't actually Layer 2s. Let's take a look. The problem with these Layer 2s is that they're not true Layer 2s. Many of them are actually side chains. Now, there's a difference because a side chain operates as a side chain of the main chain, whereas a Layer 2 actually works on top of the main chain and inherits the main chain's security, where a side chain does not. And that might introduce new points of vulnerability and centralization that isn't within the main chain. So, Bitcoin scaling used to be just Lightning and maybe a couple of other projects. There's like Stacks, which is Bitcoin smart contracts, Lightning, RSK, and Liquid. But now it's gone beyond these four projects, and they are all the rage right now. They have a combined value locked of $3.61 billion, and there's 73 Bitcoin scaling solutions. I will say most of them are trash, but there are quite a few big ones. But L2 might definitely be a mistaken narrative if you're talking about these Bitcoin projects. That's because the structure of most self-proclaimed Bitcoin Layer 2s, like I said, is a sidechain, and that's a blockchain that runs parallel to the native chain and doesn't inherit its security. That's the key word. It also doesn't inherit its decentralization. True L2s arguably should run on top of the native chain and inherit its security, which makes them more secure because Bitcoin is one of the most secure chains out there because no one has the hash power to launch a 51% attack. Bai Yu, head of the CKB Ecosystem Fund, an investor in Bitcoin scalability and interoperability projects, argues that the term L2 for sidechains is simply a marketing tactic. And it is indeed a marketing tactic because these sidechains don't have the main chain security, so they may not be as good. So using the term L2 for sidechains can indeed be misleading and may be driven by marketing considerations rather than technical accuracy. They're 100% driven by marketing considerations because they want to be able to sell it as an add-on for Bitcoin, obviously. According to Miko Otama, co-founder of the algorithmic investment protocol trading strategy, the true test of a genuine L2 is, can you get your money back without someone else's permission? And that's a very, very good question. Sidechains do not automatically support the parent chain's native asset. Instead, Bitcoin or whatever native asset it may be is transferred through pegging mechanisms that lock assets in their origin and are represented by equivalent value tokens in the sidechain. Ethereum scalar optimism, widely considered a true Layer 2, also requires native Ethereum to be locked up on the native chain. Of course, Ethereum is a rollup, and that means transaction data is periodically committed back to Ethereum, and therefore, because of that, the security is anchored in the main chain, whereas a lot of these Bitcoin Layer 2s is not. For the peg sidechain assets, security relies on the rules of the new chain and could be compromised during an attack, making another point of entry. Of course, many of you that are invested in these other so-called L2s might disagree with that, but I am willing to bet that they're probably not as secure as the original Bitcoin. Of course, there's no official consensus on the definition of a true L2 for Bitcoin, but Ethereum has an archive of arguments for the reference. I think L2s for Bitcoin and L2s for Ethereum should actually go by the same definition so as to not confuse people. So the Ethereum community defines a Layer 2 as a separate blockchain that extends Ethereum and inherits the security guarantees of Ethereum. So basically, like of the 73, most of the chains don't actually fit into that definition. So they're more Bitcoin sidechains without the security of Bitcoin rather than Bitcoin L2s. But does that actually matter to most people? Obviously, degenerate gamblers aren't going to care. They just want to make money. But they will care if they get exploited and the security is not as good. They're going to be having a lot of question marks around them. But many in the space care a lot and are working towards standards and definitions to make it more clear, he adds. David Schwed, Chief Operating Officer of blockchain security firm Halborn, tells Magazine that there is no consensus on the true technical requirements for a protocol to be considered a Layer 2, but I really like the Ethereum community's definition, and I think that should be the one that actually is chosen to be kind of the standard. But the not caring can actually change if the security of their funds is threatened by new vulnerabilities. Obviously, we've had bridge vulnerabilities and other things. And L2s could be centralized, which is a vulnerability in itself because it can be rug pulled, or there could be a breach which would actually drain all your funds because these funds on the not true L2s. Not true L2s do not support the native asset of the chain. It's pegged through various contracts, and those are points of exploiting. So these networks can introduce additional points of vulnerability and potential centralization not present in the main chain. Schwed also notes that sidechains often use oracles or cross-chain communication tools to maintain consistency with the assets on the main blockchain. Oracles are systems used to feed data from outside sources into a blockchain. These tools add a layer of complexity and bring their own risks. So yeah, sidechains don't really have native Bitcoin. They need to bridge, they need to wrap. So there are things that can happen in that process that people need to be aware of. Obviously, if things are going well and you're just an investor, a day-gen investor, and you want to make money, it doesn't matter, but there might come a time where things don't go as well, and then you might be crying because you don't really understand. So that's the thing. Withdrawal requests from users are not entirely permissionless and require confirmation of the nodes. Basically, there's structures like multi-sig structures, there's bridges and things like that. And of course, there's critical points of verifiability and vulnerability. So, there are a lot of problems with these Bitcoin so-called L2s. Most of the times they won't service, but when they do, a lot of people are actually going to get shocked. So before you buy a Bitcoin layer 2, you might want to look at the technical details before you put a lot of money in and invest. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.